empowering Black women. We have, okay, I'm having a little technical difficulty.
We can
We
hear
have,
you.
we've come this far because we've stood on other folks' shoulders. We've come this far through faith. We've come this far through hard work. I've developed a little program, a little presentation that I've given before and will be given again to AARP on Thursday of the legislation and programs that we benefit from because Black women were in certain places at a certain time. Just as a Bethune was in Congress, in the White House during the Franklin Roosevelt years when we got the social programs, youth programs, and Negro programs. Those farm programs have rolled out into programs that we benefit from today under other names, like the 4-H Club, Medicaid, and all of those programs under Dr. Dorothy Height, the voting rights program under Ella Baker, and the many women who were in Mississippi and Alabama. We benefit from the labor and the work. We need to continue with that. And we see it every day that we need to continue women voting. And whatever the issues are, we need to address them. Voter registration alone is not taking care of that matter. So we need to come up with strategies to get women to the polls. And so I'm so glad to see coalitions of Black women organizations, Delta Sigma Theta, Las Omegas, and AKA was talking with me yesterday that we have to remove these artificial barriers and get about the business of empowering our people. I want to thank our local chairperson, Sister Carol Richardson, and our host, Ms. Amanda Smith, for helping to conduct this program tonight. I may not be able to stay on for the entire time because my life is running between Zooms. And I do want to welcome our presenters. Frances Jackson, Representative, the Honorable Jackson. She's been with me before in the AME Zion Church. And Sister Veronica Jones, Commissioner Veronica Jones, who's one of our returning members to NCNW. And so we're just so pleased that we are coming together from all sectors. I see my sorority sisters, NCNW members, and I hope there are a lot of other folks on here that I hadn't seen yet, but we have to do it together, and that's my my comment to you. And so welcome everybody, welcome. Thank you, and back to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. So at this time, we're going to take just a few minutes to allow Representative Frances Jackson and then Commissioner Veronica Jones to introduce themselves to everyone. Representative Jackson, you have the floor.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for having me on. I just want to say I'm a representative now, but this is my home. Graduated from E. Smith Senior High School, went off to North Carolina A&T State University and majored in transportation and returned home. I returned home to Fayetteville and became a community planner for Cumberland County. Then I was transit planner for the city of Fayetteville. So all those experiences together, I feel like have aided me in my position in Raleigh I serve on the transportation committee. I serve on the state officials committee, state government committee, and currently I am serving on a education reform committee in Raleigh as we are between sessions. So I just want to thank you all again for having me, and that's pretty much all I have to say about myself.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for having me. I am the new one on the board. My name is, of course, like you said, Commissioner Veronica Jones, and I was elected in November 2022. It seems like it was just yesterday. A little bit about myself. I consider myself a public servant. Prior to running for office, I worked for Cumberland County Mental Health. My background is in mental health. I was a mental health educator. I was also a qualified mental health professional. So that is my passion. I've worked at several nonprofits throughout Cumberland County, such as Juvenile Assessment Center, Communicare, Family Services, where I served in the roles of different things like assistant director and director. And I own a nonprofit called Jones Global Foundation that my mother and I had started in 2020 once she had retired and I took an early retirement. And basically, the primary behind that is it has three pillars. We provide education awareness. One of those is voting, and also that for youth, and the importance of reading because my mom was a retired teacher, and also the importance of mental health. I serve on several boards right now, currently four as in my position as the at the large seat. I'm on the board of trustees. All of the county commissioners, we serve on the board of trustees for Cape Fear Hospital. I also serve on both of the homeless boards. We have one that's in-house and then one that's in joint with the city. I'm on the audit finance committee, and I also serve on the ethics committee for the trustees board. So basically, staying busy is my role as county commissioner. Consider this home. I am an Army military brat, originally born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, graduated 71st High School. Then I later went off to go to Liberty University, and I also went to Westland University. So I'm just glad to be here. And I enjoy serving, and I enjoy serving with Representative Jackson and all the other political officials and other leaders, and also faith-based leaders here in North Carolina and in Fayetteville. So just thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so at this time, I'd like for each of you, if you didn't know, NCNW is an organization of organizations. We have several affiliates that we are connected to. So if you would, please drop in the chat as Erica Barnhill has. Thank you very much, Erica. She dropped in the chat her name and the organization that she belongs to. So hers reads Erica C. Barnhill, Las Amigas Incorporated, Lumberton, Robeson County chapter. So if you would just drop that in the chat for us. Several of our affiliates are, of course, all of Divine Nine organizations, Las Amigas, NAACP. There are so many. And if you haven't had the opportunity to visit the NCNW website, please do so. It has a wealth of information on it regarding our core 4 areas that we are doing our programming in. Please go and visit. If you are not a member of the National Council of Negro Women, please consider joining us. We do work, of course, that has to do with mental health, social justice, as you are here today supporting us. We also do, we'd like to highlight STEM education also. And the fourth one has slipped my mind, so somebody help me out with our fourth area that we focus on. Please consider.
Social justice.
I call it social justice, mental health,
Economic development.
economic. That's right. So please, if you're not a member, consider. We have two sections that are right here in Cumberland County, the Fayetteville area section, and then also the Cape Fear area section. As I mentioned, President DeGraffenreid Reed is our section president, and Candace McMillan is the president of the Cape Fear area section. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do that, I want to share with you some important numbers for Cape Fear area, Cumberland County area. So this information was shared with us by Sister Linda Sutton. She is the chair of our state social justice committee, and she sent us some information about the power of the Black woman's vote. So this first chart I want to show you, this is information from the election in 2020. And so at that time, there were over 850,000 registered voters Black women voters voters in North Carolina. And so she shared with us the information regarding the top 10 counties where there was the lowest voter turnout among Black women. So you can see here some of the counties that had the lowest turnout. And I'm looking, I used to live in Graham, North Carolina. So here you see the numbers as far as the counties are concerned. And then I highlighted information on this chart that shows the 10 counties with the largest number of Black women who did not vote in 2018. And you see here, Cumberland County is number 4. We had 60,000 people who voted, and it shows that 36,000 did not vote. That's a lot of women, and that could have made the difference in someone who we know looks out for our community or would look out for our community won. And so this next chart shows how many voters were registered to vote in 2020 in the general election. And of the Black voters, it was 89,101. Then she shared with us how many voters successfully cast their ballots in 2020. Cumberland County, 58,227. Then she shared with us the actual percentage, and this is for Black voters. So 65% of those who were registered to vote successfully cast their ballot. So as you can see, here in 2018, we were number 4 as far as the number of Black women who did not vote in 2018. We do not have the numbers for 2020, but that says a lot. That's a lot of women, Black women in particular, especially when Black women is the demographic that votes the most across the nation. We are the demographic that has the highest number of voters to turn out. So that is something for us to be concerned about. And I'd like to put out a charge or a challenge. Hopefully, Sister Sutton will be able to provide us the numbers for 2020, and we can do our due diligence to make sure we contact every African American woman who did not vote in 2020, because we need her in 2024. To make sure that the interests of people of color, particularly African American people, are at the forefront of voting in 2024. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to pin Commissioner Jones and Representative Jackson. So we're going to start off by, of course, talking about the one thing that we have talked about for the past couple of years. It's that dirty word called COVID. We know how COVID came in and changed the way that we do things forever. We now know that we can use technology to do things. That was one of the good things that we learned during the pandemic. However, we do know that there were some negative impacts to COVID as it relates to the African American community. So our first question to talk about this evening has to do with COVID. So COVID-19 impact has affected Black women's social and economic livelihood due to the restrictions imposed on social and public gatherings and the economic stressors in maintaining a livable wage. We saw communities of color, how they were impacted, and how people basically sat at home during the 22 elections, our local elections, where we know that's where decisions are made that truly impact how we live, our day-to-day living. So what do you think about what we need to do to go beyond just registering people to vote, but what we can do to actually get people to the polls after they have registered to vote? So how important is it, do you think, to provide voter education information to voters that they can even take with them when they go to the polls so that they are informed voters? And we'll start with you, Commissioner Jones.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, again, as we all know, the pandemic did just change everyone's life, because at the end of the day, Black women's finances, our plans, our goals, and everything pretty much was just turned upside down. Many women want to work from home because they want higher paying jobs with better benefits. So we have to discuss, of course, why is that? Childcare. Because if you no longer can make what you were making primary to then, that's going to impact your whole significantly lifestyle change. That's number one. Number two, we have to think about, in reference to, like I said, childcare, who you put in office matters, because it's all about policy, policy, policy. That's the bottom line. So if we don't have people in place like Representative Jackson that understands the importance of education, that understands the importance of childcare, that's going to impact you. So I say that to say we need to get creative, not just have voting information about who you're voting for inside our churches, but even in areas, I mean, the library. I mean, we need to think outside the box, because many times what happens is, just like with the pandemic, stress causes, again, mental health issues. Everything goes back to the power of voting. And as we know, the Black women in America, even today, we're going through, let's be honest about this, we are going through a recovery period, because a lot of people have not recovered yet from the pandemic. Many people were stressed out. Many people, statistic facts show that 97.9% of individuals that passed away were African Americans. Why is that? Because we are the ones, minorities, and especially Black women, who suffer a lot from not having health care. We wear many hats. We're taking care of others. So it's very important that we understand that voting is bigger than just checking a box. It's really going to impact our day-to-day lives. It's going to impact where our children go to school. Will we be able to send them to school for them to have, if they're in need of assistance for a free lunch? So it is our goal. And the more I think that we educate individuals and we inform individuals on that level, we just break it down instead of, oh, you need to vote, and not have a reason behind it. When we start tying these issues to why you need to vote, then that's when you can, people are doing more than just hear you and going along their way. And again, we're really in recovery. A lot of people are suffering from the pandemic. Many people weren't able, not all jobs can work from, the computer and from home. So you have a lot of highly educated Black women who were already the breadwinner, and then they had to take on more responsibility. And then that allows you to have more stress, and you already might not have coverage as is for mental health. And then your children can see this, and it's like a trickle down effect. So I would say that the importance of education ties into all that, your everyday needs, your daily needs. When we're stressed, children see that, then they become stressed as well. So it's a bigger, major issue, not just the fact, hey, just go. So if you don't know, and another thing is, so we need to stop this just check the block because you're Black. And I'm gonna be honest with this, we do want to empower and have more African Americans in those seats. But if there are African Americans in those seats that aren't really looking out, you're supposed to look out for everyone. But the bottom line is, if they're not looking out for the minority community, then it might be a gain win for them, but it's not for us. That's why also education is important. Stop just checking the block and don't even know what are their viewpoints. Will they be there to fight for you? You might be working 2 or 3 jobs and you need assistance for your children. Are they willing to fight for rights of Medicare and Medicaid? So the more we can educate individuals for their choice and right, and we have to be mindful too, not just Black History Month. Every month is history for us. People died for us to vote, and because they understood the seriousness. So we need to take it back to the basics, grassroots. I mean, we literally have, my grandmother used to tell me all the time, we have people standing in line to buy shoes that cost $300, not knocking anybody's brand. But at the end of the day, if your child might be a diabetic and an EpiPen, costs $600, is it not worth standing in line? So we need to educate and inform people and actually use those type of, comparisons. I mean,
Right.
I'm glad that, and I love, we had the 100 Black women and 100 Black men, and nothing against it. I think that's wonderful. But can I get 100 Black men, the photo shoot? It was wonderful. I'm not knocking that brand at all, but I need to see that every day at the polls.
Absolutely.
So we need to start prioritizing, getting excited, and exactly, just like you said, from COVID, a lot of people were dying, and a lot of people have passed away. So we need to get this right. We really do. The importance of one day you're here, the next day you might not be. And so at the end of the day, you need to make sure when you're putting people in office, they care about that. They care
Absolutely.
that you might only be making $30,000, but you have 3 kids and you're in school, but they care and understand you need Medicaid or Medicare. So we can put people like, Senator Val Applewhite and Francis Jackson in place. So if you're not educated, and even people like myself, if you don't have some at the table to represent not just all people, we always say, oh, represent all people, but reality and facts will show who are the people suffering the most. It's going to be the minority. It's going to be African American families. We're going to
Right.
be the ones left behind if we don't put the right people in those seats.
Right. Representative Jackson.
I don't know if I can add anything to what she said, because she said it all. Only thing I would say is that I really can't add anything to what she said, but like she said, we need to be informed. It's more than just getting them registered and getting them to the polls. We need to tie their livelihood to what's on the ballot. As an educator, and I failed to say that when I introduced myself as an educator in the classroom, we see every day what COVID-19 did to our children. But at the same time, like she said, we need help in the classroom because the kids are at home with their parents and they don't have some of the things that they need. So the 100 Black men, 100 Black women, we need that assistance in the classrooms as well. Because I'm greatly concerned, guys. I am concerned about the next generation supposed to take care of us. If they cannot read, if they cannot write, if we don't put money in education, like she said, Senator Applewhite and myself and all of us, education is important, and not only at the elementary and high school, but also at the colleges. So Commissioner said it all. She said everything that I was thinking. But I will say that one positive thing that came out of COVID-19 is that we have entrepreneurs to come out of COVID-19. I mean, that's why some of these businesses in this community cannot find people to work, because they are working from home. They are working their own businesses. So Black women are doing positive things, but they do need help. We all need help, and it's about us helping one another and our families as well. So Commissioner said it all. I can't add anything to what she said. So great job.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that you're an educator, Representative Jackson, which leads into our next question. This question is, do we need to provide basics civics 101 to communities in order for our communities of color to understand what's at stake for voters and to actually know how the elected offices or positions impact their livelihood? Like you both have said, being able to tie the issues to voting. So do you see in your position as an educator and also for you, Commissioner Jones, as an elected official, do you see a lack of understanding of the three forms of government: our executive branch, our legislative branch, our judicial branch, and from your constituents or from your students? Do you see that there's a lack of understanding of who does what as it relates to governing, whether you're in the General Assembly at the state level or in your role, Commissioner Jones, as a commissioner in the county, and what the county does versus what the city does? Representative Jackson, we'll start with you.
Absolutely, I do. I am an adjunct also at FTCC, and whenever I'm teaching adults as well as young people, early college, high school students, and I hear it all the time whenever I'm teaching my class. They say, I never knew about this. Oftentimes I may use one of the local races as a class project to, watch what they're doing, gauge who it is that you're proposing to vote for. They didn't know about gerrymandering. Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for teaching me about gerrymandering. I didn't understand it before. So yes, whenever I hear candidates running for office, someone running for county commissioner may say, I'm concerned about transit. Well, Cumberland County Commissioners don't have anything to do with transit. The city of Fayetteville manages transit. Or they may say, someone running for city council may say, I'm concerned about the hospital, Cape Fear Valley. They don't have anything to do with that. So yes, there is a great need for people to have a clear understanding about which government handles what needs or concerns they have in their community. And don't even start with roads. People have concerns about transportation and ways of traffic. That's dual role amongst all three. So yes, I do see there's a need for education amongst in the community. Civics 101, yes, absolutely.
And before I get to you, Commissioner Jones, to everyone who's on, if you have a question or an issue that you would like for us to discuss, please drop it in the chat. And we're gonna try to get to it. Okay. Commissioner Jones, if you would share what you think as far as Civics 101.
I absolutely think that we need to start educating, and we really need to educate, like she said, start from the school systems so that children understand. So when they are old enough to vote, that's number one. And number two, our adults, a lot of adults don't know which body does what either. We find that to happen all the time. You'll have individuals come. We do a lot of the human health services on the side of the county side of things. So that means that we're going to be deciding the budget for the school system, Department of Social Services, mental health. And so what will happen a lot of times, people are frustrated but they don't understand the body of the government. So they'll sign up. And so their intent is good, but this is why education is important. So you get off work, you go to a city council meeting, you sign up, you get up there, you start thinking, you're talking about education, and they're going to hear you out. But then Mayor Colvin has to say, I'm sorry, we're not in charge of they're going to let you do your spill because they appreciate your time of making an effort to come down there. But at the end of the day, after you sign up to speak for 3 minutes that you're allowed, they're not able to help or assist you. They're going to redirect you to the county and vice versa. We'll have people come and sign up for things that's not in our area. And it's not that we're trying to pass the buck, but it's just not under the structure of the government, just like you were stating. And that makes individuals even more frustrated. Even when they're calling, it isn't that people want to pass you over. We're trying to get you where you need to be. So educating and starting to educate individuals in high school, and I say even junior high. I think it's great that the city has a millennium. They do have a teen and a millennium council, and some of their goals is not to do just events. Hopefully we're going to have one for the county. We're talking about that as well, because that's another reason why education is very important. If you're frustrated and you have a situation, as Representative Jackson said, it might have something to do with the roads. All of us are, based on where you live, all of us are involved, but you really have to understand so that you're already frustrated if you have a concern. So you don't want to be, your time is of value in the wrong place. And some people take off work. We have meetings in the day at night only to be told, I'm sorry, you're not at the right place. And so I know what I'll do, and out of fairness to a lot of the other elected officials, we do try to collaborate and work together, and maybe we'll make the phone call for them and send the email over when we can to try to make the process, less, I guess you can say, frustrating, because it can get frustrating calling and getting passed from one person to another. And so that is why education is also important. You don't want to take off work or write letters just to get a response back to say, I can't help you because it's not in my jurisdiction. So that's very important. A lot of human health services falls underneath the county. So I always tell people, look it up or call if you have concern about your school system. I know there's a lot going on with E. Smith, using as an example of where it should be located and other things. That's going to come through the county. That's not going to come through the city. And so just reach out, make a phone call, or, send an email and ask someone just, before you sign up to come down there, because you might have to get rerouted elsewhere. But we work with both bodies, both the city and the county. We work a lot with our legislators, most definitely, because all the main fundings comes from them down to us. And that's why it's important too, not to just check the box during a presidential election, because your local officials and your state officials, they're the ones making the decisions about your health care. They're the ones making decisions about your education. So of course, the higher level, the presidency, the senators, all that matters, but it does really work thematically together, and especially your local levels, because that's who's going to be making these decisions for you. And if you stay home and you don't vote because you weren't educated, and then you get frustrated, and it's like a continuous cycle. We are a tier 1. I love my community. That's why I ran. I know that's why Francis Jackson ran. But reality is we are a tier 1. And that means that's like the lowest you can get for ratings community. And how long have we been tier 1? probably over 10 or 15 years. So when are we going to, break out of a tier 1 and level up? That comes from, again, voting, education, and getting the right people in place to help us do better for our community.
So there is a question that was dropped in the chat that has to do with educating teenagers, and it's the question says, are we able to go in and register these teenagers to vote after they've had that course of study? And that was one of the things that the current superintendent Dr. Connolly changed when he became the superintendent. Organizations could no longer come in and register students to vote, which had been done for several years. So he no longer allows organizations to go into the schools and register students to vote. That is supposed to be the responsibility of those teachers that teach civics in the school system. We are hoping, though, that it will change as it relates to registering those students to vote, because teachers already have a lot that they have to do. They have to make sure that those students are prepared to pass their end of grade testing. And so giving them another task to do in the classroom, like registering a student to vote, which I can understand, connecting that to what they're teaching as it relates to history and the government is important. But we have organizations that are ready and willing and able in a nonpartisan fashion to register students to vote. And that's important, because that's where we're catching them, right there at school where they are. And we hope that will change at some point.
May I say something though? We're gonna have to change our strategy. Like myself, I'm in middle school, and I talk to my young people, my students, about some things, but now they are finding that we are stronger when we talk to our young people, and that's why they have all these bills in place to make sure that we don't tell them what they should know about civics, about social studies, about representation. Every chance I get, I discuss it in class, but I have to be very careful because of some of these bills that they put in the state where we can't discuss this in social studies. We can't discuss this in civics. So there's a grave concern to me about that, because like you said, they use social studies classes, that class, to pull students out so that they can go and prepare and get and help them with their EOGs for math and science, or math and ELA. But social studies always takes the back seat, and that's one of the things that's going to hurt us. And so we're going to have to find another way. We can't go into schools. We're going to have to find another place to meet them. So I'm concerned about. I'm like, who's going to replace me if you don't know what a bill is?
Right.
So I just wanted to say that there's a lot of work to be done, but I did not realize that. So that's information to me that he took that out of the schools.
Yeah, we're no longer are organizations able to go into the schools and register students in Cumberland County. But you bring up a good point when you're talking about, you yourself as an elected official. So our next question centers around Black women, and not only us being the demographic that votes the most, but also Black women as political candidates. We vote in record numbers, but we are underserved and underrepresented. So what are experiences, or what experience sparked your interest in running for the office that you now hold? And I'm looking at our time, because we said we wanted to keep this at an hour. So if you would, I want to keep you at responding to this question at 2 minutes, but tell us what sparked your interest in running for the office that you currently hold. And we'll start with you, Commissioner Jones.
Well, one of the reasons that I want to run for county commissioner at large is because of the fact that my background in human health services, working in mental health, family services, and case management, and again, understanding the body of government, that is where the decisions are made. I had already served on some boards prior to coming aboard as a county commissioner at large. And to be honest with you, I feel like the commissioners were doing a good job, but just understanding policy and procedures, I felt that I need to be at the table because I feel like there was a lot of bias and Black women and minorities weren't, in my opinion, being represented as well as we could be. I want to represent everyone, of which I do, but my spark came from just that, understanding policy, understanding the government, and my background of having experience working in mental health and case management, and from already serving on boards, like I'd served on the social service board, the job development board. So just from the history that I already had and the work for such a time as this, I felt like the best way for me to be able to help all people, and especially minority people, was to be at the table to make those decisions. Because at the end of the day, there is, a lot of Black women are running. I'm a member, I'm probably going to put in the chat, of Higher Heights of America.org. And some of this research, I just want to read this really quick. 16 million Black women are eligible to vote, 67 are registered. Black women make up 17% of the votes and cast the ballot in 2017. But at the end of the day, what happens is when you look at the higher seats, for instance, let me just share this really quick. 31 women, the most ever serving in Congress. There's 30 in the House of Representatives. However, when you look at the state, there's only 20 we have Black women are serving the state legislatures hold like 373 out of the country, 7,383%. So it's a smaller number. When you look at the bigger seats, and my understanding, if don't quote me on it because I don't think they've won yet, we've never had a Black woman governor. So, this is 2024, and there's never been a Black woman governor. So at the end of the day, although we are winning mayors and we're happy for that, when the legislative, when you talk about the highest seat of the states, there's never been a Black woman governor. So I was looking at that, and Mary McAllister, she's passed now. I worked on her campaign. So I think it's important to mentorship. My mother, she's passed also, Ruby Lee Jones, but they started planting these seeds in me. And even in my seat as county commissioner at large, it must have been about 20, 25 years. We've had other women for district seats, but I'm the second Black woman and only woman in like 25 years. Since Mary McAllister, I'm just the second one. So look at that big gap. We are making milestones, but at the end of the day, when you look at the bigger numbers, we still got a long way to go.
Absolutely.
So that's why I ran. I really wanted to make change. I felt like my leadership abilities, sometimes we're not heard unless we are at the table. So although we are increasing and making numbers, we need more Francis Jacksons, more Veronica Joneses. We need more Val Applewhites, because when you look at it overall collectively, that number still needs to be grown. If we're not, the equal representation isn't there. Our system is sometimes biased and systematic against African Americans and against women. And so if we, there is racial disparity. And if we're afraid to, talk about these things, it's not getting, people get uncomfortable, but that is the reality. Reality is there's a lot of racists against African American women in general, in leadership. And I know that, it's not a comfortable thing to say. I know Representative Jackson can agree with me on this. And so when we are at the table, we see it. We're not always treated as fairly as the men, and no disrespect, but I mean, on the bigger realm of things, we go to conferences and stuff. So although, there's been a lot of improvement, at the end of the day, Black History Month, we still have a long way to go. And that's not a negative. But if we're not going to be realistic about these things, then change won't come. We have to be comfortable talking about the uncomfortable reality of the situation. And that's, the percentage is 6.8% population makes of Black women. So, people need the Black vote, but sometimes they don't appreciate the Black vote, especially women's votes. A lot of people want African Americans, our votes, especially women's votes. But then when we're at the table, we still have to fight as if we know that we're qualified, we know we're educated, but and we see it all the time, even in, in all areas, even, what's going on now with every area, even from entertainment. You have Taraji Henson talking about she's getting paid half half the money is other people. So this is like still a continuous fight. It doesn't matter if it's in education, it doesn't matter teachers. We are still getting paid less, although we know our worth and we know we're intelligent. So the fight still continues. Good trouble, as John Lewis would say.
Yes. Representative Jackson.
Well, like you know, education is power, and that's what I tell my students every day.
Yes.
My experience as a planner with the Cumberland County Planning Department, I was actually a thoroughfare planner, and we received federal funds. And as a result of receiving federal funds, we were required to comply with civil rights. We were required to make sure we have public hearings. We were required to make sure that ADA exists with the funds that, we make sure that sidewalks exist for transit. We make sure that minorities have opportunities to the contracted opportunities to the federal funds that we have. Seeing all that, approving subdivisions in this county, writing policies that we still live by today, zoning, subdivision policies, implementing those policies. I saw a big difference between the haves and the have-nots.
Yes.
And as a result of that, that is why I would end up running in Hope Mills. I was the first African-American to run in Hope Mills. I'm so thankful that McCray actually made it. She has been super model. So as a result of doing all those things, I was a transportation director in Hope County for a while, and I wrote grants to help people in Hope County come and get on this transit system in Fayetteville, so they can go to school, so they could go to the hospital. And those people over there said, we don't want our people leaving the county line. We don't want them going across over there for educational opportunities. So when I saw the suppression in so many areas, not just there, but over here too, I decided that I'm gonna run for this. I'm gonna run. I didn't know, lack of education. I didn't know I would be able to succeed. But like she said, we had, Mary McAllister as an example. She encouraged me often. Her son is a good friend of mine and a classmate. So same with Dr. Council. Those people, Dr. Griffin, those people, the Glenn Adams, those are the people, Gail Adams, these are the people who instilled in me, hey, you can do it. I didn't think I could, but I tried anyway. What could it hurt? So, but seeing those things happen in Cumberland County government and city government, I decided that I would run for office. And that's what prompted me to do so.
And can I add one quick thing? I'm glad that we both did run. And I really think that I love Cumberland County. I love Fayetteville, but Rachel's disparity is real in our community. And we have to be honest about these, which is also why I ran. I'm happy that I live out west. I'm glad we have Jack Britt up rural area. I'm glad they have Grays Creek. But at the end of the day, we still need E. Smith High School. So, demographics matter. Now, we can say they don't, but they do. I'm happy that we're helping with the, situation in Grays Creek for the county for water, but then we still have people coming and signing up and saying, well, what about Cedar Creek? And I say this because at the end of the day, when you look at the different places of who's getting help more, I mean, it is what it is. Cedar Creek is on the other side of the river. I get calls all the time.
Right.
They're doing without water. I know so we have to look at this, and a lot of people say that when they're called, they're like, well, we've been without water for 10 years. Why are they getting service first? And so I don't think it's an intentional thing. I'm a part of the team, so I'm not attacking my team. But at the end of the day, this is real talk. I'm happy that we are going to be moved forward in the school board too, and something's going to be done about E. Smith. But at the end of the day, these are things that make sense, and people have a right to want to know what's going on. When you see a new school going up, and then maybe majority out here in West, it's a mixture, but predominantly white. They've got a school going up. Then you have one in Grays Creek, rural areas, and then on Murchison Road, which is 80%, minority. Then these are valid, legit questions. Why, they're like, okay, we're happy that our school they're wanting to do something about E. Smith now, but at the end of the day, so when they do want to do something, reality is it's more than just a school. The community should have some say so. There's a lot of history and heritage behind it. So that's what I mean by, Rachel's disparity. And then same thing with Cedar Creek, when you have people signing up, coming and saying, I'm happy for the people in they're telling us this is true transparency because we represent you all, the people, we work for the people. But when you have people coming from Cedar Creek, and that's more of a, a lower poverty area, they don't have a lot over the bridge, but they want to build up for development too. They have a right to say, well, we're happy for Grace Creek, but we've been dealing with the same issue. Why is it that you're moving forward with things with them and not with us? Now, these are things you can pull the file, pull the record that individuals are saying. So that was one reason why I ran too, because we need some fair equality. I love what I do. Like I said, I know that Francis Jackson does too, but at the end of the day, we need to balance it out, because whether you live across the river, Cedar Creek, out in the rural area, and Grace Creek, everybody wants to drink clean water. And so
Right.
it can get frustrating for families, as it should. Just like, I'm happy that E. Smith, we're working on that with the school board. And at the end of the day, though, they have a right to want it. They've waited so long. They see 2 other new schools going up. There should be some input and input, because there is a lot of history behind it. So those are the things that also why I ran, is because as much as I love my community, the uncomfortable situations, racial disparity still exists. We all working together, but the reality is, based on your zip code, and just as she said, she was on boards prior to even being elected, so was I. And when you serve on boards and you see different things, or even when you go into the school systems, when I work for Juvenile Assessment Center Communicare, and I'm going there to counsel a student, and one student is one color and one's the other, they do the same thing, but the punishment is different. That was going on way back when. We're still a tier 1 school. So when you see these things going on, you don't want to just, sit back. You want to be able to say, I want to get involved, and I want to be at the table, and I want to make some good trouble. So.
Okay. Now I wanna share with you as we go ahead and start wrapping up. I was able to get the numbers for 2020, and I want to share Cumberland County. So, and these are the numbers of Black women registered to vote in the general election in 2020. And it shows, I may have to go back and forth. Let me see if I can
Don't freeze it.
Can y'all see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, let me hide these so that I am up here. So this is showing the Black women registered to vote in 2020 in the general election. And for Cumberland County, it shows that, and it shows the age ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 48,981 Black women voters, 6,457 between the ages of 18 and 25, 14,627 between the ages of 26 and 40, 20,046 between the ages of 41 and 65, and then 7,851 over the age of 66. This group here, we had more women Black women between the ages of 20 and 26 and 40 to vote in 2020. Of that, and these are just registered to vote. Then here, who actually cast their ballots? Women between the ages of 41 and 65 had the highest number to actually cast their ballots. Then when we look at the percentages, as far as the women who voted, here again,
Wow.
women between the
80%.
ages of 41 and 65 were one of the largest. Anyone who was 41 ages and over, look at the women who are 66 and over, because they know how important it is to vote. They
And the
will.
issues that I ran in 2020, and those issues were the beginning of the issue about, abortion, and Trump was on the ballot. So there were a lot of different things, I think, that brought those women out.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering now, because of the the different issues that are going on now that are at the forefront, like healthcare and women's right, and women just having their voice and being able to make a decision about what they want to do with their bodies, how
Yes.
important that is going to be in this next election. I see where Valencia put Roe versus Wade
Yeah.
in the drop. And then also Courtney Banks McLaughlin talking about the conversation and Black female candidates running for office. Janine Eccles is talking about poverty in the rural areas and how accessibility is a issue. And we saw that during COVID.
Right.
Just the how the school system had to take buses into areas to make sure that the kids could connect to the internet so that they could do their homework and be engaged. I mean, that was really important.
No,
Also, and yes, I see your message in the chat, Catherine. We'll try to get that to you. And then also Maida put in the chat that we need to look at the policies around the school board and how it's important for us to know that. She particularly notes school board policy 3640 and slash 5130 on the board. It says board directs the superintendent or designee to establish a committee on high school social studies teachers. So and things go on and on as we talk about what we should do and how we should do. We can't afford to stay home. We really cannot afford during the 2024 elections to stay home. We really have to make sure that people understand and that we as trusted voices connect the issues to voting, especially for those folks who did not have health care prior to Medicaid expansion
Right.
being fulfilled here in the state of
Yes.
North Carolina. People advocating and engaging our elected officials is the reason why you now have Medicaid and
That's
can
right.
go to the doctor. So that's one issue that a lot of people don't connect the dots. So we, as educated voters, and there are 31 of us on this talk tonight, we are I believe we're educated voters, because you
Yes.
wouldn't be on here if you didn't think this was important. We need to be able to help connect the dots to folks who don't vote or who don't feel like they should vote or have the need to vote. And that's very important. I see a question. I want to take that. And this question is from Crystal Edmonds, I believe. It says, our young women's, those who are just graduating from college, need to know to vote, as these issues will affect them. Let me open this up and see if I can see it better. Here we are. So it says, and I'm sorry, this is from Erica Barnhill. It says, she says, this has been a very informative session for those of us who are on this call, but what is our strategy after this call to get women, especially African American women, out to vote? So what are some of the strategies that we should? I just named one. We need to connect the issue like Medicaid expansion. If you know someone who has who now has Medicaid, we need to connect that to why they should be voting. Because before you didn't have it, you didn't have health care. But because there were people advocating for you to get Medicaid and for Medicaid to pass here in the state of North Carolina, you now have health insurance. Maida dropped in here, get information into salons and
Yes.
barbershops on the roles of our elected offices and how those offices affect our livelihood. Anyone else have any?
I would like to make a comment.
Yeah,
One of the
okay.
things I have not seen this year at the polls is candidates saying, I want you to vote for me because I'm concerned about
Yes.
so forth and whatever it is. When I ran, I said, look, education was important to me. I think it starts with us, but also in all the literature that I received, I haven't seen anything that says vote for Francis Jackson. I'm concerned about education, first responders, economic development. I have not seen that. I'm not saying it's not going on. I'm just saying I have not seen it. Even the commercials are just saying, vote for me. I'm so and so. I'm Wesley Harris. I'm on Wesley Harris's commercial for his election to state treasurer. And I don't see where he's saying why we should vote for him. Just that, hey, vote for Wesley Harris. So I think that's important to say. Again, going back to the issues, like she said, the salons, the beauty salons, the barbershop. That's serious salon talk when you talk about the issues related to the election. It shouldn't be not only education, but some of us, Social Security is on the line this time. There are so many issues out there that give cause to people running for being informed about going to the polls. Financial aid, all of that. You have to find people where they are. These young people are concerned about jobs. They're concerned about housing. They're concerned about having money to, go to school. They're concerned about daycare. Those are some of the things we have to say to the people to get them to the polls.
And I think
1 minute, there are some ideas that are being dropped in the chat that I want to get to, and I see that someone actually said they're saying let's see. So Maida said, go to the barbershops and salons. Carol said, go to college campus. And she mentions financial aid, that financial aid is in jeopardy and how we can connect it to that age group. Felicia says, know the candidates' platforms. Go and actually look at their information that they're putting out. Sierra Joyce says actually taking people to the polls, using Uber and Lyft safely to get people to the polls. She says Raleigh and Durham and insurance, get help with insurance. Victoria said, I voted today and I didn't see anyone stating that either, why they vote. Bria says, making sure to place information out in the community in layman's terms, as sometimes people avoid voting because of the complex wording that can sometimes be on ballots, making it difficult for them to comprehend. Maida says that's why we need to get citizens to attend the Fayetteville Candidates Fair that Fayetteville Alumni sponsors on August the 17th. It'll be at the J Center, which is help me out. I got a brain freeze there.
True Vine Ministries.
True Vine Ministries. This is the one way that you can talk to the voters face to face. So remember, after the primary, they're going to be those folks who will win the actual candidacy to be placed on the ballot in November. So come out August 17th.
Yeah.
Sigmund Zalik says one strategy, work through your local community precincts. She says we are a grassroots team because we visit community HOAs, and by asking our governing body to put ads in the paper and bring up these issues at local commissioners meetings. She said we must become active locally also. Thank you, Sigmund. Also seek out high school students and college students to do the get out the vote. Felicia says, I always ask when they approach, or they approach, or I approach, why should I vote for you? And then Carol dropped in the chat a flyer that says party at the polls. It's going to be at Smith Rec Center on March the 2nd from 12 to 3. And let me go ahead and get you real quick, Commissioner Jones.
I wanted to also say, I think it's important that there's a lot of organizations that are nonprofit and they specifically work on just that, like ACLU. There's also another organization. We all know that Michelle Obama, First Lady, she has When We Get Out to Vote. There's another organization. So I think that listing some of those, some nonprofits, and I know I'm going to see about the county doing that. There's also nonprofits that promote, we're trying to see about them coming down there, not the county, but on the side myself, they actually set up and they registered people to vote. When you were saying getting young people involved, they actually register people to vote at concerts. And they've got a lot of, as Representative Jackson was saying, you have to sometimes go to the individuals, and hopefully we can, talk to Dr. Conley, or I tell people, write in, put a petition into your school board about maybe setting up a voters registration at the games. We really need to be more proactive and creative in ways. The organization I was speaking of, I can't remember their name, but I'm calling myself outside of being county commissioner, but since I do have my own nonprofit, we're trying to see about getting them to come and register at some of our concerts. That's actually their whole nonprofit. What they do is they actually set up and register individuals at I'm talking major conferences. I also know Representative Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's from Texas, but at the end of the day, she can, rally up the younger folks. So we need people that can get the attention to younger individuals, because also non-affiliated votes, it doesn't matter what your party affiliation. I know we're not discussing that here. The primary main thing is to vote, but the increased number of non-affiliated voters is occurring because a lot of people are just displeased with party affiliations. I know one thing that I do is, it doesn't always have to be on a big perspective, because this is so important. What I'm doing lately is I've been taking the little, the little cards they give out, the voters tells you what the locations are, and I'll strike up conversations with the waiters, while I'm waiting on my food. I did that the other day because I want to get the perspective from the young individuals. I'll hand them, I'll say, have you voted yet? Or did you vote? Do you mind me asking, or why? And they'll give me their input. Some of them will say yes, some will say no. And this gives them the opportunity, while they're waiting and they're waiting on me, and I'll just hand them one of the little, the markers that has information on where you can go vote. So there's little things that we can individually do. It's great to do seminars, and it's wonderful to have, voting. And this, of course, is important too. But for individuals that might be listening or saying, what can they do? Everyone perhaps doesn't want to do things on the bigger scale. Little things like that. Get the little cards, pass them up if conversation, gauge if they're going to feel comfortable or not. And because a lot of times, I think the last day of voting is coming up Saturday, and many people don't know, and they'll get there too late. So that's what I found for me has been working really well with the younger folks. Of this, the little, it's the little bookmarker that they have, and I'll just, hand it to them. It's really easy. I'm in comfortable conversation. So they'll say, oh, I'll go by there. I didn't, and actually a lot of times it's just like you said, education. They want somebody to inform them, especially when I'm talking to waiters and they might say, hey, they have a job, and we, can engage in, again, it leads into telling them, you're in school. If you're concerned about financial aid, these are the reasons you need to look into the candidates. And I agree with you, Representative Jackson. I tell people, hold us accountable. Now I'm speaking as myself and any other elected official. I know that Miss Dumplin, she's running for a district. Look into what people are already doing before they get elected. Have they invested? We're representing you as the people, but see what type of work they're doing and ask the questions. You see them at the polls. I know that Francis Jackson and some of the judges and Val, when we all made history as like the first African Americans in our area to win, we were out there. We were out in the rain. I know that Councilwoman, Courtney McLaughlin's been out there in the rain. So if you really want to represent, we work for you all. And I tell people, no question is a dumb question. And let's be clear about that. Elected officials, you all are our boss. It's not the other way around. So don't be afraid to hold people accountable. Don't be afraid to, ask questions, because then you'll know, you'll know what they stand for, why they're running, because all that's important.
Right. Thank you. Just before we sign off, I just wanted to put up the schedule for voting. As we know right now, early voting is going on. It ends on March the 2nd at 3 o'clock. Folks can still go and do early voting right now, and now is the best time to vote. So if you know somebody who hasn't voted, please encourage them to do so. I saw that President DeGraffenreid's Reed's hand was up. We're gonna let her have the final thoughts of the evening, and we're gonna go ahead and end our session. President Queen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I enjoyed listening to all of the comments and concerns out in the community, and the initiative that we need to recharge. And I do want to acknowledge that we have on the line one of the oldest NCNW members in North Carolina, Catherine Farrell, is on this line, and she is 102, if I remember.
Oh, wow.
All right.
She's from the Durham section.
Wow.
And she will be in our
Amazing.
army.
I'm 111.
Oh, hey.
Oh,
111. Yes, and she
God
was
is good.
featured
awesome.
in our newsletter this for Women History Month. If she can get on a line and be listening anywhere, 100 and anything,
Absolutely.
we can do this.
See, I know when you couldn't. I know when you couldn't vote, and I
Yes.
never missed the time to vote.
Yes,
And now I'm not driving. My children take me to vote.
I know
that's
that's
what you
right.
gotta do.
And I
Amen.
encourage everybody to get out there and vote, because I know when you couldn't vote.
Oh,
I know
bless
you do.
you. Blessings.
Yes.
On top of
Yes.
blessings.
I know that's right.
I voted Saturday, this past Saturday.
I'd love to meet
Thank
you.
All
you.
right.
We appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
That is amazing.
So this is a wonderful way to end our session by acknowledging
Yes.
Sister Catherine Farrell,
Farrell.
111 years old.
Yes.
She told us she remembered when she could
Cannot
not vote, and we can. So that should fire up some people. I know it has me.
Fired up, ready to
Thank
go.
you so much, Sister Farrell. Yes, we are, as Maida can say, fired up and ready to work.
Ready to go.
Please, if everyone on here would make sure that someone gets to the poll who has not voted, and we get them there prior to the end of early voting. Let's try to do that. I got 2 people I know of that I'm gonna get to the polls before early voting ends, because that's the best time to make
Yes.
sure that if there are any issues, you get it corrected during early voting.
Early voting.
Thank you so much for your time. We really and truly appreciate you. Is Sister Tawana Branch on? I don't see that she is. And also before we end, we did also try to get U.S. House of Representative Alma Adams to join us, but her schedule did not permit. We think that there may be someone from her office that is on. We'd like to acknowledge that person. So if you're on, please unmute yourself so that we can recognize you if you're here. Okay, well, if not, I'm going to do a quick prayer to end our evening. Thank you again so much for being on with us. We hope that someone has learned something new and that you're inspired to go out and vote. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity, and we thank you, Lord, for Commissioner Jones and for Representative Francis Jackson. Heavenly Father, we know that the work that they do in their respective areas is not easy. However, we know that you can guide them to do what is right for your people, no matter their creed, no matter their religion, no matter their race, no matter the color of their skin. Heavenly Father, we ask that you guide us and keep us as we do the work in the community as the National Council of Negro Women, the Fayetteville area section. And Lord, we commit our work to you. We commit our hands to you to do the work that needs to be done in our community. And we thank you, God, for our affiliates who help us to do the work that is needed to get the resources to those who are in need. Heavenly Father, all that we do, we commit it unto you. Thank you and amen. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and good night.
Thank you for the invite. It was wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice.
Thanks. We had about 5 sections from across North Carolina represented. So thanks for supporting the Fayetteville area section.